have as much time as you'd like, but we're in our last 15 minutes. We're going to sprint to the end line. Now, one thing I learned in the doctoral program at Michigan State, adults do not like to be called out in class. They don't want to be singled out and said, hey you, what did you put for this one? So I'm not going to do that. Please don't force me to draft though. I need somebody who will share their definition of leadership. I can't believe that it would be wrong, so everybody's is good. Someone share. Please, thank you.
Okay, creating an environment or conditions to inspire others in your community or workplace towards a common goal and purpose, driving them to that end or inspiring them to drive.
Okay, I heard the word inspire, not necessarily motivate. Inspire is good. I heard purpose or mission. So who are you trying to inspire? Your team, your people, to do something. Good. That's fine. Very good. Someone else? Yes, go ahead.
Leadership is the ability to recognize skills and weaknesses present in your area of responsibility. Once you've ascertained these two things, a good leader will apply the skills to the task at hand, and to the extent possible, modify the weaknesses if necessary with an eye towards accomplishing the task at hand.
Okay.
Leader. Sir.
Could I not everybody's going to hear you. I just wanted to read a couple pieces.
Yes, sir.
All right?
Sir.
Okay. Look, I just made E5 in the Army. I'm not sir. Thank you, though. Yeah. Oh, are you? All right. Yeah. I'll tell you what I learned about Georgia when I worked for this company. We'd be negotiating some pretty big stuff over 911. It was Bell South at the time. They're out of Atlanta. When someone from Georgia is moving their head up and down, they don't mean yes. They just mean they hear you. So we think we're making great progress. We're ready to sign a $100 million contract, and we're all done. Say, well, we're ready to go, right? And it's like, no, we didn't say yes. So yeah, there's different cultures. So an eye toward accomplishing the task at hand. Men are good skills. I saw a piece in here which suggests to me you would correct things. It needed to be corrected. I'm paraphrasing. Folks, that's a key piece, is continuous improvement of self, others, and process. It's a mouthful. Continuous improvement of self, others, and process. You should be constantly improving yourself. We're having regular one-on-one discussions, and we're doing IDPs and other things. That's the improvement of others. And then I mentioned how important it was to be looking at process. You have to improve process now. You can't think you're going to have people do more with less all the time. That can't work forever. So continuous improvement of self, others, and process. If you were going to compete to move into the SES or some high-level position, and somebody asked you your leadership style, I'd lay that one on them right away. Say, you know what? My philosophy is continuous improvement of self, others, and process. And then you can come down with some other stuff like CPR, ethical leadership and stuff. But that's a huge one. If you do that, I've served on a lot of executive promotion panels. If you were to say what's your leadership style? Well, continuous improvement of self, others, and process. You don't get any points until you answer this question. Tell me a job you had in the past where you did that. If you can show me you applied that, you got it. I'm impressed. Okay? All right? The next page has my definition. Doesn't mean it's right. You might see it different, but I just want to mention a couple of things. I don't just call it leadership, I call it extraordinary leadership. Or uncommon leadership. And do you notice the first thing is exemplar character? And that's what we talked about earlier about this ethical leadership. You have to display exemplar character. Next one is contagious passion. I have never seen a successful high-performing team with a leader who wasn't passionate about what they do. I mentioned places with high morale like NASA. I do a lot of work with Special Operations Command at MacDill Air Force Base. Wow. They have people in 67 countries. They have an inspirational mission, and their people are all jazzed. So you have to show passion in your leadership role. It's contagious. And disciplined execution. You can show exemplar leadership, character, and contagious passion, but if you don't get done what your constituency and stakeholders want, then it's of no value at all. You have to achieve the results that other people value. Now, I should have used inspirational repertoire. I said motivational repertoire. That's your toolbox for the way that you're going to inspire people. Is everyone inspired the same way? No, they're not. Some people don't like kudos. Some people aren't motivated by money. Money is not a top motivator unless morale is in the toilet, if you will. Then you pay me more because I have to put up with more crap. Okay? So, your motivational toolbox, what's in it? And you have to rally the troops in a worthy cause. There's another reason this definition doesn't fit diabolical dictators who declare war on their own people, like Stalin and Hitler and those, because that wasn't a worthy cause. Okay? And the other thing is, I never saw exemplar character out of any of those bums. Did you? Would you describe any of those as having exemplar character? No way. No way. So this definition, by the way, I had a similar definition for years, and I was very proud of it. And I did a workshop for the federally employed women. And in the front row was this fairly young gal, and she goes, you know, by your definition, you could include people like Hitler and stuff. And I go, oh, wow, you're right. I had to go back to the drawing board. I had to redo it. And then I put in, you know, exemplar character and other things. Hey, by the way, they have this saying, like, those who can't teach. You ever hear that? Those who can't teach. I'll give you another one. If you want to learn something twice, teach. Because you have to learn it, memorize it, be ready for questions. And the other piece is, I've always done, every time I've done a workshop, I learn something. Somebody says something, and I go, I'm going to steal that for my book. So I'm hearing new things all the time. So if you want to give back to your organization, do a leadership class. So, and a worthy cause, making all things appreciably better. Isn't this continuous improvement of self, others, and process just the phrase, making all things appreciably or materially better? That's why that's so important. So you can have that definition you like. There's a couple of footnotes in there too. All right, I have 5 minutes to cover one other topic, and it's important, more important than you think. I mentioned earlier, just because one is promoted into a leadership role, that's not a validation of their leadership skill. You have to have a vertical learning curve, get on a reading program, and go. So here's what I recommend. I would never buy a leadership book, never. I go to the library, and I'd check out 10 of them on a long weekend, and I'd start reading. What do you think happens after you get through the 4th or 5th leadership book? Yeah, you see repetition. Now you're starting to get it. Especially if you take notes, you're starting to see overlap. Okay? Now you're starting to get it. By the time you get to the 10th book, you go, you can't tell me anything in here I haven't picked up from the other 9. So that's when you know you're really getting it. Now, the library gets mad when you have a really great leadership book and you start highlighting it and bending the ears and stuff like that. Don't do that. Buy the book. Okay? Buy the book. And I would go to biblio.com and buy the book. You can probably buy it for $1. I am on page 15, right in the middle. So, go to the library and get your leadership book. If you like it, then go to biblio.com. I bought 75 of Doris Kearns Goodwin's book on the political genius of Abraham Lincoln, Team of Rivals, for $1 a piece. It cost me more to ship them than to buy them. You can go there and have a really nice library for, well, $100. By the way, I have an observation. In an executive's office, the more leadership books on the shelf, the less they probably read. Get 10 or 15 of them and absorb them. Take notes. There's one other way you can do this. You can subscribe to a service called Get Abstract. Get Abstract. For $299 a year, you have access to 7,000 leadership books, and they've all been compressed down to 5 pages each. 5 pages. So if you wanted to read a book like Good to Great, look, I don't really care what IBM did or anything else. I just want to know the key concepts, and that's what they do. They cram it down to 5 pages. You can read 50 leadership books in a week. So, and you have access to 7,000 of them. So that's what I'd recommend. You can get a subscription for your entire team. They'll do all kinds of things for you. Now, I'm going to send Ray 6 or 8 of them. I'll just pick out the article on acts of decency and other things I think you might enjoy, and he'll move them on to you. You can read through them. Okay? You can have them downloaded onto your tablet. You can listen to them. You get a PDF. The one thing you won't get is a Word doc. They don't want that. You can manipulate it. So that's what I do. If you want to tell your boss at the end of your performance period, I read 50 leadership books, oh my God, I'm so impressed. He doesn't need to know it was Get Abstract. All right? Unless he's in the room with you. Okay, good. The systematic review of the literature, you have to do what graduate students do. Hey, we can kill the overhead. Would you guys kill the overhead? You have to search for the truth, and here's where you can stand on the shoulders of giants and do it legally. What's out there that you can replicate and use? Do you know that Einstein was not the only one moving toward E equals mc squared, the relative theory of the theory of relative motion, or anyway, E equals mc squared. There were several others working on it. They were very close to getting it, and he had collaborated with them. They all had worked together. So you can stand on the shoulders of other people and start where they stopped. So that's important. By the way, Einstein couldn't work the math. He couldn't do the math. He had to send all of his stuff to his math professor at his former university where he got his PhD. He did the math and came up with E equals mc squared. So he had a weakness in math. Can you believe that? So, but he was a genius. He could use like 1% more of his brain than anybody. He came up with all those things. He still has things in his notebooks that people are startled when they read it. All right, we're going to go to page 22 because that's where we're going to finish. Now, there's a lot in the notebook we haven't covered, but here's my philosophy. You only have to read it and you'd get it. I don't have to go through this long list of why you want to do a systematic review of the literature, why you want to overload your brain with all this leadership stuff. It's right there. But I do want you to see this little diploma-looking guy. See, it says Certificate of Advanced Achievement. I'm going to end with a little story, and we're done in 2 minutes. So I had mentioned early on you should help people become subject matter experts. And I worked on a team. I was leading a team as a senior director, and all 36 people were, by the end of 1 year, they were subject matter expert. So we did what? Catch them doing things right, reward what you want more of. We had a celebration. We made up these certificates, and I ordered these little gold devices that come on some diplomas, and we put one on there. And we went to Walmart for $3 and bought a frame. We had them all set out. We bought everybody a bottle of Martinelli's apple juice, and I had these little stickers that said achievement, outstanding achievement, and those fit right over the gold sticker of Martinelli's, so it looked like we had the bottle custom made. You can do things in the private sector you can't always do in the public sector, which was everybody got a $100 gift certificate and a nice card signed by the CEO of the company. So when they walked in the room to celebrate, they had their name with a card, bottle of Martinelli's sparkling apple juice. We had a beautiful cake made up with ice cream, and all the certificates were at the front. I had made up a list of all the folks on my team who were going to get a certificate, and a little note, something different, unique about them. And the president of the company came in, he called each one forward, one at a time. He handed them a certificate that he would say I had written. He'd say, I understand you have the largest collection of CDs in the company. It was silly stuff. It didn't matter. What did it say? He knew something personal about him. They got to shake his hand personally. And they got a certificate, and they had a camera, and all this stuff went on. It was absolutely huge, and the cost was $3 for the frame from Walmart, and the cake and ice cream, and a bottle of Martinelli's, and a $100 gift certificate. The gift certificate was almost irrelevant to most people. It was shaking the hand of the CEO. And then when we were done, a little act of servant leadership, the CEO said, hey, how are we going to do the cake and ice cream? And right away I realized he was willing to serve, so I said, I'll do the cake and you do the ice cream, knowing that he would be the last one he'd be the one to hand it to the employee. And so we did. So they got to shake his hand, he gave him that, said thank you. It was absolutely huge. It was legendary in the company, and just cost a few bucks for the cake and other stuff. So the key piece was you have to think about it. How can you celebrate and make a difference like that where people would remember it? So, okay. 99% of what we talked about today costs no money, right? What does it cost to tell somebody thank you? Nice job. Catch them doing something right. Deliberate acts of decency. Courtesy, professionalism in the workplace. Let's try this as our final quiz. If you get it, we can go. How would you handle this? You're in your staff meeting, you've got somebody there that's old and crotchety, they're going to retire in the next month, and every time somebody says something, they go, that's stupid, that's asinine. Why don't you say something intelligent? What are you going to do about it? Another way of saying it, how fast are you going to strike? Immediately. You got two choices. Stop the meeting, or you could just say something very quickly. That's not meeting the standard for CPR. I'd appreciate it. You need to change and move right on. The danger is, remember I said you reprimand quietly and praise loudly? You have to decide instantly how you're going to handle it. I have stopped the meeting, had my admin go get that person, come down, and I had the discussion. You know what? Not meeting the standard. That's not CPR. Got to cease and desist. And I didn't do the difficult conversation piece. Cease and desist. Got to stop right now. And that was that. So, all right. I asked and answered the question like a good attorney, so you get credit for answering it, right? Yeah. Anything we didn't cover you thought we would have? You can define leadership. You know at least 10 best practices of leadership? What does CPR stand for? Professionalism and respect. I'm going to leave it at that final quiz question because you got it. So you're batting 1,000. We good? We're going to go home. All right, everybody. Thank you. Hey, thanks for attending. Thanks for being here. Thanks
Real
for
quick,
participating.
sir, thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
And this was kind of just an impromptu. We took advantage of a great opportunity, and that was to have Joe come here and talk to all of our senior leaders today. So, sir, I truly appreciate your time, your effort, your inspirational words. A lot of good stuff. So, thank you very, very much.
Yeah. And what else I would say is it's very rare to have someone who's of your stature, rank, and title to actually sit in on that. Most of the time they'll come in and introduce me and then they kind of wander off. And I've had some people who I was too close to the truth with them on bad bosses and they would leave. But he stayed the whole way and participated and gave great answers to other things, and that's rare. So you got a good leader in your midst here.
Appreciate it, sir.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah.